This is the Grand Traverse County Board of Commissioners meeting. Today is Wednesday, December 28th, and it is 7:01 p.m. If you have a cell phone, if you could put it on silent or vibrate, that would be much appreciated. And just as a notification, Dennis did have a scheduled time off with his family. They're all in from all over the country, and I indicated he could spend time with his family this evening. And I'm sure that the family's got our television show on air, see the variety show. So with that, we will call this meeting to order, and we will start with the invocation followed by the pledge, and I will ask Commissioner Rob Henschel to lead us with the invocation first, please.
This is a Christmas prayer by Martin Luther, so shall we pray? Ah, dearest Jesus Christ, holy child, make thee a bed soft, undefiled, within my heart, that it may be a quiet chamber kept for thee. My heart for very joy doth leap, my lips no more can silence keep. I too must sing with joyful tongue that sweetest ancient song, Glory to God in heaven, who unto man his Son hath given, while angels sing his pious mirth, a glad new year to all on earth. Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Commissioner Henschel, for that touching and lovely prayer to start our meeting during these holiday seasons. We want to wish everyone in our audience, our fellow commissioners, and our staff. We all hope that you had a great Christmas, and we hope that you will have a wonderful new year as we go into 2012. We will have the roll call, please.
Gilman?
Here.
Henschel?
Yes.
Lemko?
Here.
Richardson?
Here.
Thomas?
Yep.
Maxbauer? Here. Fleece?
Present.
Wheelock?
Yes, ma'am.
Inman?
Here. We have quorum, all present. Next item is the approval of the minutes for the regular board session meeting on November 30th. Need a motion?
Mr. Chairman, I would move to approve the regular session minutes as provided.
Support.
Motion by Wheelock, Commissioner Wheelock, seconded by Commissioner Fleece to approve the November 30th, 2011 minutes. Is there discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Passes. Okay, this leads us to our first public comment, and the clerk will read the rules for public comment.
Any person shall be permitted to address a meeting of the Board of Commissioners which is required to be open to the public under the provision of the Michigan Open Meetings Act as amended. Public comment shall be carried out in accordance with the following board rules and procedures. Number 1, any person wishing to address the board shall state his or her name and address. Number 2, no person shall be allowed to speak more than once on the same matter, excluding time needed to answer commissioners' questions. The chairperson shall control the amount of time each person shall be allowed to speak, which shall not exceed 3 minutes. Chairperson may, at his or her discretion, extend the amount of time any person is allowed to speak.
Okay, you have heard the rules regarding public comment. Does any member of the public wish to come forward and make any public comment to the Board of Commissioners at this time? Hearing none, we will close public comment. We will move on to the approval of the agenda.
Mr. Chairman, I would move to approve the agenda as provided.
Support.
All right, moved by Commissioner Wheelock, seconded by Commissioner Fleece to approve the agenda as presented. I don't have an addition. All I just want to do is under notices and announcements, I want to just hand out the revised 2011 Administrator Performance Evaluation. It was determined today that 8 out of 9 commissioners filled them out, not 9 out of 9. So we have a revised version of that, which did not change the rating, but I just will pass that out for information purposes only.
Mr. Chairman, I think we
Yes.
could also remove the announcement for yesterday's meeting from notices and announcements.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, that's not necessary as well. Okay, we have a motion and support to approve the agenda as presented. Any other further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Passes. Thank you. Move on now to special orders of business, and I guess part of being chairman is And also, being part of the Board of Commissioners is to recognize outstanding service by our fellow co-workers and individuals that we've had the pleasure of working with for many years. And I would like to, at this point in time, call on Lou Coulter. And if you would like, you can bring your lovely wife up, Virginia, if you would like. Just an invitation. All right.
I know I seen them upstairs. She was showing him her new office.
That would be fine, and then what I'll do is I'll have you stand up and I'll present the actual plaque to you after I read it. I don't have a roaming microphone. We'll have to work on that. Otherwise, I could just stand up and read it to you. But we have a certificate of appreciation with your name on it, Lou Coulter, with the Grand Traverse County logo on it, nicely framed and in color. And it says, whereas the Grand Traverse County Board of Commissioners wishes to acknowledge Lou Coulter, Executive Director of the Grand Traverse Conservation District, for his service and leadership since 1988, and whereas the Conservation District works with farmers to conserve natural resources, manages over 3,000 acres of public parkland, and leads the effort to protect and conserve the Boardman River and its watershed, and whereas Coulter led his staff and his others through some monumental changes in order to create what is now the largest and most dynamic conservation district in the state of Michigan, and where he was so instrumental in the building of the Boardman River Nature Reserve Center, which serves as the headquarters of the district staff of educators and natural resource managers, and whereas Coulter was this year's recipient of the Frank Purvis Stewardship Award for showing a high degree of dedication to community planning and volunteerism, and therefore, the Grand Traverse County Board of Commissioners is proud to acknowledge Lou Coulter's involvement in making Grand Traverse County a better place for us to live and enjoy. Lou, your time of service and valuable contribution, we thank you so much. Call on Commissioner Gilman, the official photographer of the Board of Commissioners.
Did you say big smile or big mouth?
Would you like to make a few remarks?
Well, I'll be very brief. I do want to thank you all for this, as I thanked you before for your support. In the 23 years that I worked for the people of Grand Traverse County, you guys have been just amazing, and the people before you as well. It's been a series of boards that have been very supportive of our organization and our mission, and I really appreciate it. I hope you afford the same courtesy and support to my successor. I think he's going to wow you. I think he really will. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, I would just like to say that I've served with Lou a couple of different times on that board, and how much of a pleasure it's been for me to serve with you. And, you know, he has brought the Conservation District to a long, leaping step forward in the years that you have led it, and we really appreciate that. And also, I think you were the one that got started with the Swing Shift for the Stars and raising $55,000. So, for the Conservation District, and I just commend you for all that you've done for our community. Thank you.
All right. Anyone else? All right. We will move on and thank you very much for taking time out of your schedule to come and take the award in person. We really
He was just working on Jenny's to-do list. but he's promised me when he's done with hers, he's going to come start on mine, because I don't have any time.
Forget it.
Okay. We now will move on to the next item, which is the action on the consent calendar. And for those of you that may not be aware, the consent calendar are items that come to us when we receive and file. They are also items that, when the county board meets every Wednesday at 7 p.m. In various areas of county government, makes recommendations to the full Board of Commissioners, and those are placed on the consent calendar. So the clerk will read the consent calendar.
The purpose of the consent calendar is to expedite business by grouping non-controversial items together to be dealt with by one commission motion without discussion. Any member of the commission, staff, or the public may ask that any item on the consent calendar be removed therefrom and placed elsewhere on the agenda for full discussion. Such requests will be automatically automatically respected. If any item is not removed from the consent calendar, the action noted, receive and file or approval, is approved by a single commission action adopting the consent calendar. Receive and file, number 1, resolution supporting a statutory exemption for stormwater runoff from logging roads, Antrim County. Number 2, correspondence from Lynn and Shirley Botwell, Garfield Township, November 18th. Number 3, email, Mary Atkins, December 3rd. Number 4, correspondence received December 5th. Number 5, CRA, which is Conservation Resource Alliance, Boardman River Dams Implementation Team Minutes of September 22nd, 2011. Number 6, Area Agency on Aging Minutes of October 6, 2011. Number 7, Michigan Northern Counties Association Minutes of October 17th, 2011. Number 8, Board of Public Works Subcommittee to review hauler licenses minutes of October 17th, 2011. Number 9, Northwest Michigan Community Action Agency minutes of October 20th, 2011. Number 10, Joint G5 Sewer and Water and Board of Public Works minutes of October 24th, 2011. Number 11, Commission on Aging Strategic Planning Session minutes of October 26, 2011. Number 12, Grand Traverse County Department of Human Services Board minutes of October 28, 2011. Number 13, Commission on Aging Regular Board Meeting minutes of November 1st, 2011. Number 14, Special G5 Subcommittee minutes of November 2nd. Number 15, Resource Recovery Council meeting minutes of November 3rd. Number 16, what's that? Conservation Resource Alliance dash a River Reborn Project management meeting draft minutes of December 2nd. Number 17, Conservation Resource Alliance dash Communications Working Team draft minutes of December 2nd. Referrals, none. Approvals, the Board of Public Health and Safety Committee did not meet in December. Resource Management and Administration Committee recommends approval of the following resolutions. Number 18, Medical Directive Services Agreement with Benzie Leelanau District Health Department. Number 19, Non-Community Water Supply Renewal Agreement. Number 20, Appointments to Boards and Committees. Commission on Aging, Human Services Board, Airport Commission, Northern Michigan Substance Abuse Services Board, Beta Board, Veterans Affairs Administrative Committee, Traverse Area District Library, Brownfield Redevelopment Authority, Economic Development Corporation, Planning Commission, Farmland Preservation Board, and Workforce Development Board. Number 21, appointments to the Community Corrections Advisory Board. Number 22, Martin Luther King Training Day 2012. Number 23, appointments to boards and committees, Parks and Recreation partial term, Resource Recovery Council, Board of Public Works, and Inspections Appeals Board. Number 24, appointment to the Parks and Recreation Commission for the 3-year term. Number 25, appointment of Magistrate Robert Brown. Number 26, RAP, Risk Avoidance Program Grant, District Court. Number 27, fiscal year 2011-2012 Comprehensive Planning, Budgeting, and Contracting Amendment Number 1. Number 28, Staffing Plan Amendment due to approval of 2012 budget. Number 29, Personal Days for non-contract employees for 2012. Number 30, Traverse City Housing Commission Request and Recommendation. Number 31, Fragmites Program, Maple Bay Park. Number 32, Geographic Information Systems Department Status. Ways and Means Committee recommends approval of the following resolutions. Number 33, Radio Maintenance Contract, Radio North. Number 34, Employee Assistance Program Contract Renewal for 2012. Number 35, Travel Policy Addendum 2012. Number 36, Google Apps Services Implementation and Training. Number 37, Volunteer Furlough Policy Human Resources. Number 38, AED Purchase. Number 39, Budget Adjustments. Number 40, Appointment of Attorney Magistrate Angel Kaylee Wolf.
Okay, that was quite a consent calendar. Thank you for getting through that. The clerk has read the consent calendar, and does any member of the public wish to pull any item off the consent calendar for further discussion? Okay. Hearing none from the public, we'll go to the County Board of Commissioners. Commissioner Henschel.
Number 24, please.
24. Okay. Commissioner Fleece,
26 and 27.
repeat that again.
26 and 27.
26 and 27. Okay. Any other commissioners wish to pull an item? Hearing none, if we can have a motion to approve the consent calendar with the exception of item 24, 26, and 27.
I would make that motion, Mr. Chairman.
All right, moved by Fleece, seconded by Gilman, Commissioner Gilman, to approve the consent calendar with the exception of item 24, 26, and 27. Roll call vote, please.
Commissioner Henschel?
Yes.
Lemko?
Yes.
Richardson?
Yes.
Thomas?
Yep.
Max Bauer?
Yes.
Fleece?
Yes.
Wheelock?
Yes, ma'am.
Gilman?
Yes.
Inman.
Yes. Consent calendar approved. We will now move on to, by the way, after the administrator's report, we'll move on to the items that were pulled off the consent calendar. We will now move on to the administrator's report. First item is the proposed amendment to the solid waste ordinance number 17. I guess, Dean, are you taking in charge of that, or we go to Commissioner Wheelock?
I have reviewed it, but we have Bob here and
Okay.
I think Sonny, but with Bob here, I think I would ask Bob to address any questions
All
you
right.
may have.
Bob, if you could come up and get yourself introduced to the public.
Bob Ostrout, Resource Recovery Manager.
You can speak just a little higher.
How's that?
In terms of your voice.
Okay.
Thank you. Such a soft voice. Okay. So we have this proposed amendment to the solid waste ordinance number 17. Do you have any remarks you'd like to make on that? And then we can go to probably Commissioner Wheelock, I guess, from there.
Sure. We started back in January of 2011, started working on the amendment to the solid waste plan. We got the transfer station MRF amended to allow this American Waste Facility. And the second part of our process is to take a look at the solid waste plan and try to make it obviously easier to read and understand. But also there were some changes we wanted to make in the plan. And I outlined some of those for you. In the old plan, there's quite a bit of county managed, county-owned facilities. We've taken that out of the plan. We now open the plan up to private and also public participation. There was a landfill spec'd out at Whitewater Township. In our new plan, we will not be able to site landfills or incinerators within the county. If such a project came forward, it would have to come to the Board of Commissioners. And if they decide to do something, they could open up the plan to accommodate that. And we also made, I'm sorry.
A question, if I may?
Okay.
I can wait. I can write it down and wait.
Yeah, why don't you wait?
All
Let's do
right.
the full thing, then you can write it
Sorry
down.
to interrupt.
That's okay.
Okay, and there was a lot of changes in the plan. I think, the changes obviously were to make it easier to read and understand, but also reflect what the county currently does within its solid waste management system. And the old plant was in place, was much like tailored after the Emmett County system of a county-controlled solid waste system. And what we see today is more of a private enterprise solid waste system.
Okay. Commissioner Wheelock, do you have anything to add?
No, I told Ollie I was going to get this plan to 12 pages, and Bob brought me 27 pages of graphs and charts, so we couldn't get it to 12, but we're down to 45, including the executive summary, so I'm pretty pleased with that. I got to give Bob an awful lot of credit for this project and the Solid Waste Planning Committee that this board appointed. They worked very diligently to get through this thing and give us a document that's truly easy to read, easy to understand, very distinct. It outlines not only, landfills and those type of facilities and the licensing and all of that, but it also gives us a separation of what is actually a transfer station and what is a materials recycling facility. We didn't have a differentiation between that before, and we do now. So it's different if they're just going to haul it in and dump it on the floor and then haul it out commingled, or whether it's source separated, and then that's the only way they can separate it. Or if you have the facility like American Waste Built on Hughes Drive that allows them to bring single stream recyclables in and separate those materials to the optimum recycling capabilities. I believe, of course, now I'm running numbers, our 2010 recycling rate ended up at like 37.23%.
It's a little over 36%. We had some additional
36.23%.
data come in. So.
And, you know, I can easily assure you and the community, our recycling rate for 2000 will be in excess of 40%. And that's a addition of extra services being provided by private industry in our community, the decisions by communities to contract together and lower the rates and provide recycling to their communities, and the fact that this county board made the decision to make curbside recycling mandatory countywide, as far as make it available countywide. So we're going to see a recycling rate, I'm sure, with our 2011 numbers in excess of 40%. We have a goal rate of 50% in this plan in 2017. You know, so, you know, we're already getting pretty close. We're doing a great job. So, you know, if we can get the residential class to recycle a little bit better, we can bring our numbers up. You know, our numbers are still being maintained by the, you know, the thing that I've been telling you for a long time. Our solid waste industry has been being driven by commercial and industrial, and our recycling rate is being driven the same way. So we need to, you know, make sure that we recognize that when we have discussions about how we handle solid waste into the future.
Okay, so you've heard the presentation. I will call on first Commissioner Maxbauer, who has a question.
Yes. Bob, you mentioned that the county is not going to be able to site a landfill unless it comes back to the Board of Commissioners.
Right. Nobody would be able to come and just cite a landfill.
Correct.
They would have to come to, the Board of Commissioners could decide to, if they needed a landfill, could open the plan up and to put a landfill in there.
Okay.
If they decided to.
If that happens, and I don't anticipate I'll see it in my lifetime, but you never know. Never say never. If something like that would happen and the Board of Commissioners says, I want to go ahead and cite, we want to open the plan up, does that have to be taken to all of the townships again?
Mm-hmm.
Or
Yes, that would have to be taken to the townships.
Okay.
Yep, they would have to vote
In that case,
on that amendment.
I would take to the bank that we're not ever going to see a landfill.
It would require another 17-member solid waste planning committee, go through the whole process that we just went through, a 90-day public input process, public hearings before the solid waste planning committee, public hearing here, and then the county board has to pass it, 2/3 of the townships have to pass it.
We've got 125 years of landfill space at Glenn's landfill, and we've got, I think, 60 years at Manistee. So, I mean, unless for some reason those closed, you know, we have adequate landfill space for the material we're doing.
Okay. Any other questions from the commissioners?
Said you got 50 years in Hoosier Valley yet.
Okay.
Let's pass on that one.
Dean, do you have a question?
Right, just to be clear, there's two resolutions here. The first is the resolution on the second page of the administrator's section to adopt the First Amendment to the Grand Traverse County Solid Waste Ordinance 17.
Move for approval.
Moved by Commissioner Thomas, second by Commissioner Fleece, to approve the proposed amendment to Solid Waste Plan Ordinance 17. That's presently in your packet and under resolution. Is there discussion?
Well, I think it's important that we note that there is a difference between this and the other one. We kind of did what should have been the second one first, because Ordinance 17, the First Amendment to Ordinance 17 was the action taken by this board to bring the Department of Public, or the Resource Recovery Department in underneath the Board of Commissioners and separating it from the Board of Public Works. That had to be done in Ordinance 17 because that's where the chain of command, if you will, was. That's what this amendment is. It isn't the plan amendment, that's the second one, and I'm sorry, I should have caught that we were doing one before the other two.
That's why I wanted to bring you guys back.
You know,
If there's any objection to the second one, we can
Well, I have no problem, as long as everyone understands, what we're voting on in the first vote
It's already
is
included
the
in the
amendment to
second
is the amendment to ordinance 17. And the ordinance 17 is that what portion that actually gives us regulatory action over solid waste in this community.
All right. Does anybody have any objection about taking the
Shouldn't
first
we
item
do
up
it in
first?
order? I mean, just...
Does anybody have any objection about questioning the second one?
Well, let's just go ahead and, as long as nobody has any questions, if anybody has any questions on
We'll
ordinance
just pull it.
17,
We'll
we'll
just-
go ahead and talk about that, but other than that, let's vote on ordinance 17. This is the thing that we did way back in the budget process, set forth to bring
Right.
the Department of Public Works, or the Department of Resource Recovery,
Under the Board of
underneath the
Commissioners.
Board of Commissioners, separate from the Department of Public Works.
Correct. Okay,
And that was a decision we made last May or June,
correct.
but it has to be finalized because that becomes effective January 1.
All right. Any other comments on the motion? Hearing none, roll call vote, please.
Commissioner Lemko,
Yes.
Richardson,
Yes.
Thomas,
Yep.
Max Bauer,
Yes.
Fleece,
Yes.
Wheelock,
Yes, ma'am.
Gilman,
Yes.
Henschel,
Yes.
Inman.
Yes. The motion passes. Now we need to go to
Mr.
solid.
Chairman, I would move to pass the amendment 2011-2 to the Grand Traverse County Solid Waste Plan.
Second.
And moved by Commissioner Wheelock, seconded by Commissioner Henschel, to approve the solid waste plan amendment 2011-2012 in your resolution form packet. Is there discussion? Hearing none, roll call vote, please.
Commissioner Richardson,
Yes.
Thomas.
Yep.
Max Bauer,
Yes.
Fleece,
Yes.
Wheelock,
Yes, ma'am.
Gilman,
Yes.
Henschel,
Yes.
Lemko,
Yes.
Inman.
Yes, motion passes.
Thought for sure I'd hear a yee-haw.
All right, thank you.
Nice job, Sonny.
Not only
Thanks,
yes,
Bob.
but hell yes.
Bob and Sonny, nice job.
All right, item number 3, there's an acknowledgement and disclosure in terms of Commissioner Henschel and Commissioner Gilman that is in your packet. And we need to recommendation, acknowledge conflict and approve the contract agreement for parts and repair between the Commission on Aging and Henschel Hardware.
Roy's Service Center. Roy's Service Center.
Royce,
Did they put Henschel on?
yeah, they put Henschel.
Oh,
We
wow.
changed that to Roy's, right? All right, so the motion is, you make the motion to make it Henschel or not Roy's Hardware. Okay.
Okay.
Commissioner Max Bauer.
I would move to acknowledge the conflict between Commissioner Henschel and Roy's General Store and approve the contract agreement for parts and repair between the Commission on Aging and Roy's General Store.
Support.
Is there a second? Motion by Commissioner Max Bauer, second by Commissioner Gilman to approve disclosure and contract with the Roy's Hardware for parts and repair. The Commission on Aging. Roll call vote, please.
Commissioner Thomas,
Yep.
Max Bauer,
Yes.
Fleece,
Yes.
Wheelock,
Yes, ma'am.
Gilman,
Yes.
Henschel,
Abstain.
Lemko,
Yes.
Richardson,
Yes.
Inman.
Yes, motion passes. We now have, under item 3B, the disclosure, and I'll read the recommendation, acknowledge conflict and approval for the purchase of a DVR by Telrad from Jason Gilman. Should we acknowledge your company name?
Yeah, I would say so. Industrial Covert Unlimited.
Industrial
Covert
Covert
Unlimited.
Unlimited. Limited or unlimited?
Unlimited.
Unlimited.
ICU.
Okay. Which was being installed in the jail's transportation van.
Which is why he parks at Munson with no trouble.
I can't pick up, I can't do any better humor than Commissioner Richardson tonight. I'm sorry. I'm trying. Okay, I need a motion on the floor to reflect that.
Mr. Chairman, I would move to acknowledge the conflict with Commissioner Gilman and authorize the purchase of a DVR from Telrad to be installed in the transport van for the jail.
If we can, and we can just indicate the company's name is Industrial Covert from.
Covert Unlimited.
Okay. Any discussion on the motion?
Who seconded that?
Please.
Roll call vote, please.
Max Bauer,
Yes.
Fleece,
Yes.
Wheelock,
Yes, ma'am.
Gilman,
Abstain.
Henschel,
Yes.
Lemko,
Yes.
Richardson,
Yes.
Thomas, Inman.
Yes, motion passes. We now move on to claim summary, and I believe we have two handouts, the original one, and then we had an amendment one. Dean, if you'd like to respond to that, please.
There's actually one claim summary. The other item was an additional series of budget amendments that I'm asking approval on, and that is the next item. But the claim summary for the month
Okay,
of...
I'm following you. Okay, I'm sorry.
The claims summary and total for the month of December is $7,241,174.63. I'm asking for your approval of those claims.
Okay.
So moved.
Moved by
Support.
Commissioner Wheelock, seconded by Commissioner Fleece, to approve the claims and accounts as presented. Discussion? Hearing none, roll call vote, please.
Commissioner Fleece,
Yes.
Wheelock,
Yes, ma'am.
Gilman,
Yes.
Henschel,
Yes.
Lemko,
Yes.
Richardson,
Yes.
Thomas.
Yep.
Max Power.
Yes.
Inman.
Yes, motion passes. We now move on to the budget adjustments. Dean, you have an additional item here for
Yeah,
us?
sorry for the confusion here, but the cover address that I may need to bring additional budget amendments, I've completed my review of all of the funds. There were 4 that were actually presented in your packet, starting with the health fund, the amount budgeted to cover payment number 1 on the Lafreniere, the new health services building.
Oh, okay.
And then the additional standalone handout, starting with one for the Board of Commissioners, and then a medical care facility and the septic treatment facility are the separate page. And the one that I did want to explain is the first one on the standalone page. If you recall, a year ago, the board entered into an agreement with Tax Management
Yeah.
Associates for the personal property tax discovery services. Those invoices we're just starting to receive those. This was something that the former equalization director had been working on. Prior to her last day, I had no knowledge of the scope of the services that had been provided. What I have been able to do, though, is determine that based on the amounts that we have been billed, we have received 3 invoices for these services. And I have Michigan Tax Commission orders for the amounts that they have discovered, and the local unit assessors have been instructed to invoice, prepare tax bills for these personal property discoveries. What I have done here with this first budget amendment is budget 100% of those invoices. We are billed $250 per account. Our contract with them, though, says that this is revenue neutral to the county, meaning that we may not pay $63,000, depending on what is actually added to the tax roll by way of a tax bill. It's going to take Ernie and myself some time to actually determine what our tax recovery is here, and we will not pay them more than the tax revenue that we have will receive, and ultimately collection of this is another issue. Personal property is collected by the local unit treasurers. It's not turned over delinquent to the county treasurer. So there's some real question as to what amount is ultimately collected here. But I have 3 invoices, and rather than have the auditors write us up for a budget variance to not have budgeted for this expenditure, I wanted to ask your approval to increase the budget to cover the full amount, with the understanding that I will have a better handle on this at Ways and Means in January. I don't anticipate that we're going to pay them $63,000, but I wanted to have a budget amendment that would cover it to that level.
Okay, so Dean, quick question. In our packet, we have County Health Fund, Commission on Aging, Foreclosure Fund, and in addition, you have on our desk the Board of Commissioners, medical care, and septic treatment plans. So those would be the total items under what we would consider budget adjustments.
Correct, in
Okay.
addition to the ones that were presented at Ways and Means,
All right.
which were on the consent
Okay.
calendar.
Then we're on the consent calendar. Okay. Questions from the commissioners, or do we have a motion on the floor?
Mr. Chairman, I will make a motion to approve the budget adjustments as outlined by the finance director.
Moved by Commissioner Wheelock, seconded by Commissioner Henschel to approve the budget adjustments as presented for 2011. Commissioner Wheelock.
Dean, do you know on this personal property tax, are we assuming that the township treasurers are going to bill all of these amounts?
I was able to trace in several receipts that we have received. Let me back up. Initially, there was some confusion as to how this would be handled. The State Tax Commission, when they issued an order, that goes back to the local unit assessor, who will ultimately then hand it back over to the treasurer. And the order is clear that within 20 days, they have to prepare a tax bill. What was unclear to most of the treasurers was that there was an interest charge on top of the levy. And keep in mind that some of the discoveries are for multiple years. They've gone back, some are for 2009, 2010, and 2011. We have received approximately $10,000 in additional personal property tax revenue this year as a result of these discoveries, over and above what was budgeted. I can't tell you with absolute certainty that all the local units have actually billed for these orders. That is something that Ernie and I, need to sit down with. We're going to start with the county treasurer and see if we can get a handle on this.
Well, I know that, there was a lot of discussion amongst the local units as to whether or not this was the right thing to do, and they weren't consulted in the decision to do it. And, I'm just concerned that, for us to spend the $63,000, if in fact the county does not receive the $63,000, that wasn't the intent.
Right.
We were promised from the very beginning this was going to be cost neutral, or we should truly see a profit, if you will, on this audit. And I didn't believe it then, and I still don't believe it now.
I will definitely have to talk to Bob Cooney about how we interpret the contract, because they're billing us for all of the accounts that they have identified discovered personal property. For the county, at $250 a property, parcel, or whatever you want to call it, you'd have to have $50,000 in taxable value for Grand Traverse County alone to recover the $250 fee based on the county millage. There's a broad term in the contract that says county, and I'm not sure if that includes the Commission on Aging millage and the Pavilions millage in addition to the county millage. And I'm also not clear as to what revenue neutral means. So we will definitely be talking to Bob about this, and I will not make any payments on this without the board's approval.
Commissioner Fleet.
Dean, do you know what the total was for the discoveries?
In terms of taxable value,
Yes.
I have only gotten through, yesterday Ernie provided me with all of the state tax commission orders for the first invoice. I did not have time to compile that information today. I just received it yesterday.
Okay.
But that will be the first analysis that we do. We will schedule out by year the taxable value that was discovered to determine how much the county revenue would be. I will ultimately try to determine what the total tax revenue is, considering all of the units, but that's going to take some time.
Commissioner
Are
Gill-
you aware
I'm
of
sorry, go
what
ahead.
the,
Commissioner Fleet.
Are you aware of any large amounts, like the day she made the presentation, she talked in the neighborhood of millions on like one entity, and we were talking energy companies. And I'm just wondering if any of the big potatoes ever came through.
I have not seen anything that large. Most of the discoveries that I'm seeing, which are actually then verified by a state tax commission order, are less than $5,000 in discovered value. I'm seeing a few in the $30,000 range. I saw one today that was $50,000 in taxable value. So we are nowhere near a recovery in the $63,000 range based on the billings.
You know, I would like staff to consult with Mr. Cooney about possible action for fraud on their part, because that is a total misrepresentation of what we were told. And if Mr. Cooney could inspect the contract with fine-tooth comb, having that in the back of his mind, I would like the staff to report back to the commission on that, because that is just totally not what was represented to us.
Well, it's clear that, you know, I'm not exactly clear what our former equalization director did in terms of preparing this contract, or if Bob or Al or the prosecuting attorney even had a chance to look at it before it was executed. So we have a lot of work to do with this. Number one, our starting point is clearly the contract, and I will discuss this with Dennis next week to see how he would want us to proceed, but I do hear what you're saying.
Okay, I'd like to report back to the commission before we pay anybody any money.
Well, I will not make any payments here without coming back to you, and I would ask for your approval on any payments to this.
Thank you.
Okay. Commissioner Gilman.
Just a couple of questions. Now, when they talk about revenue neutral, are they talking about revenue neutral per account? In other words, we couldn't make some of them because of the value being so low.
Correct.
Or is it an aggregate? Is it an aggregate amount? So in other words, if our total billing to us was $63,000 and that's what we bring in on the whole, are we supposed to satisfy their claims? And further, if that's the case, does that $63,000 include all the captured amounts, or is it money that's county?
Well, I really want to bring Bob Cooney in on this, and I don't think he's had a chance to look at the contract. We're trying to work through this last minute. I certainly I have not been in a hurry to make any payments. I'm getting past due notices. I will not make any payments until we discuss this with our legal counsel.
You know, Dean, if I could, and I'm sure Mr. Cooney and you would think of this, but if need be, maybe you need to review the tapes with what exactly we were told, because I believe my memory is pretty correct, and I would say it was fraudulent, if what you're saying is true.
Well, and that was why I was concerned about the fact that they billed us for discovered property that was way under, the threshold to recover the $250 fee. I mean, to me, that didn't really follow the intent of the contract, so
Well, an exact comment that I remember vividly that was said in that conversation was by one of the commissioners, we don't want to spend $100 to collect $5 in taxes.
I remember that as well.
And that's the point I'm making.
Commissioner Gilman, were you finished?
I'm
with your
also,
comment?
thank you.
Okay, all right. Any other commissioner comments? Commissioner Max Bauer.
Well, there isn't one of us, I don't think, that's sitting up here that wishes that we had that vote to do over again, and admits that we made a mistake. But this is not a vote for payment. This is a vote for a budget adjustment, so Dean passes his audit, and I certainly support this.
Yeah, we
Thank you.
understand that.
I just have one remark, and my recollection was that the company was brought in to assist the equalization director in identifying properties that, in the tax roll, that have either paid or had not paid personal property tax. And then that was their role, was to assist the equalization director in the information gathering, and then the equalization director was going to send a letter out to the folks that weren't on the list and ask them to complete the form and return it back with their disclosures.
In case you're curious, that's not how.
And that's how this whole thing got started. And then there was some representation that, some oil companies and some other major players that they were aware had personal property that could make a major effect in terms of our overall budget, and that's why the board moved forward with it. But, I personally got a number of calls from people that were visibly upset, and that they got a notice from the tax tribunal, which I never thought would go that far, in terms of if they didn't respond to the letter in a timely way, that they got turned into the tax tribunal, and they were asked to go to a hearing. And I'm talking about a 7-year-old computer that might be worth $500 or $1,000 at the max, and these people were visibly crying in my presence, and I said, don't worry about it, I'll find out what's going on. And I said, all you need to do is, I went down to the equalization department, Lori was in there, talked to the assistant, said, listen, identify the amount you believe that value is and send it in, and that'll be the end of it. And they got a bill like for $11 or $12 or something like that, and it was the end. To me, that was not worth the time and effort of having this consulting company come in, take action on such small amounts, and in getting the complaints coming in, not only from us, but by the townships, and then turning around and turning them in for such low values to the tax tribunals, to me, were totally misrepresented what was going to occur and how these people were going to be treated, as Commissioner Fleece has indicated. So those are my ending remarks on that issue. Anybody else have anything? Commissioner Fleece.
Another thing that really irritates me is we were led to believe this was a Michigan firm. And in reality, it was a firm out of North Carolina, and under the pure Michigan guidelines, we look kind of dumb by giving our business to a North Carolina firm. And I heard that from a lot of constituents. What are you doing spending our tax dollars and sending them down to North Carolina when we got so many people unemployed in Michigan?
Right. Okay, we have a motion on the floor to approve the budget adjustments for 2011 with the understanding with regard to the tax management associates billing of $63,000, that amount will not be paid until we get a full report back from the accounting finance director. All right, and that is the motion, that's the second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, roll call vote, please.
Commissioner Wheelock?
Yes, ma'am.
Gilman?
Yes.
Henschel?
Yes.
Lemkool?
Yes.
Richardson?
Yes.
Thomas?
Yep.
Max Bauer?
Yes.
Fleece?
Yes.
Inman?
Yes. Motion passes. Thank you. That concludes the administrator's report, I believe, Dean. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, thanks. We will now move on to items removed from consent calendar. The first item coming up on item number 24, commission. That's the appointment of the Parks and Rec Commission for your term. Commissioner Henschel, you pulled that. You have the floor.
Thank you. Since the RMNA meeting, it's come to my attention that one of the people recommended for the Parks Commission appointment has been a resident for, I believe, about 6 months in the area, coming from downstate. And, certainly that doesn't disqualify a person, but it may, in my mind, make other people seem to be a better candidate, someone that's been in the area at least a year for an appointment. We had another person that a couple months back, somebody had resigned from the Parks Board, and a local man, a veteran, had stepped up and filled that gap for us, and he is available for this appointment. He applied for it. With that in mind, I make a motion to edit the resolution to replace the name Scott Robertson with Dr. Harry Liebzeit, and approve the resolution for appointment to Parks and Recreation Commission.
Support.
Okay, we have a motion by Commissioner Henschel, second by Commissioner Max Bauer, to amend the resolution on page 78, appointments to Parks and Rec Commission, and omit the name Scott Robertson and add Dr. Harry Lipset, if I pronounce this Lipset. And it would also include David Graham. I guess I would call on the chairman of that particular interview committee for any remarks. That was Commissioner Richardson.
That was me, yeah. Scott Robertson, it is true, he moved to Grand Traverse County this summer. He is employed by TCAPS. Actually, his job is working to increase use of outdoor facilities, recreational facilities and so forth. He also served on a Parks and Rec board in East Grand Rapids, where he moved from, and I believe may have had a degree in Parks and Recreation as well, if I'm not mistaken. I haven't reviewed the applications recently, but particularly in light of our interest in getting Parks and Recreation, our county Parks and Recreation, to work with TCAPS and integrating and collaborating all of our recreational facilities to benefit all the citizens. We thought he was a really good addition. He also was very impressive in his interview as far as his understanding and interest and so forth in the whole issue. And as far as Mr. Leapsight goes, we did not feel that he interviewed as well. That wasn't necessarily even my opinion, but even though he had been on Parks and Rec for 7 months, he couldn't answer specific questions with very, very much nuance or understanding of the detail of the questions. And he was getting the same questions as everybody else and should have had a leg up because of that. And also I'd like to point out that Mr. Leapsight is not a doctor in any normal sense of that word, so I don't think we should call him that.
Okay. Commissioner Maxbauer and then Commissioner Flees.
Well, as you all know, I was the lone no vote in the committee.
That's not true. The vote was 5-4 in committee.
I meant the ad hoc committee. We didn't
I'm
have.
sorry.
We didn't
Okay,
have.
go ahead.
We didn't have that many members in the ad hoc committee. Mr. Robertson is a new resident here. He was asked if he'd visited any of the county parks, and he said, "Yeah, the one downtown." I will tell you that based upon my experience with Dr. Leapsight, I've seen his work, and he works diligently. He's prepared for meetings. He was the same way when he was on Light and Power. And Peter Doran, the present president of Parks and Rec, has asked him to stay on in the Rules Committee because he's so prepared. The other person I really liked was Alyssa Kropa. She was the most enthusiastic person I saw there. And this is just my opinion. She sits on the Garfield Township Board, and I thought, Parks Board. And I thought, this is a wonderful opportunity to get Grand Traverse County to work with Garfield Township's board, move that for, I've always envisioned like a parks authority for Grand Traverse County, and I thought, it's a little tiny baby step, but it's a darn good one. So she was the other candidate that I truly liked for a 3-year term, and those are the reasons. Excuse me, my nose is running, but it's my sinuses and my allergies. But I will support Commissioner Henschel's motion.
Okay. We need to go to Commissioner Flees and then Wheelock, just to give the commissioners who haven't spoken yet an opportunity.
Well, I'll absolutely not support the amendment to the motion of Henschel's. And Commissioner Maxbauer, at our last meeting, you made some very definite statements about his credentials, which, after looking at the facts, they're absolutely false.
No, they're not.
I happened to see the application he filled out. For a man of that stature that you named, I think a sixth grader could have made the application out better. So I'll not support that amendment at all, because, like Commissioner Ross said, he's not a doctor by any stretch of the imagination. No more than I am. And the misrepresentation of the credentials, I find very deplorable.
Okay, Commissioner Wheelock.
Well, I'm not going to sit here and talk about the qualifications of one candidate compared to the other. We had 8 good candidates when we interviewed these people, and it took us 3 votes of our 4-member committee before we could get a majority to vote of which 3 members to accept. And this is the recommendation of the committee. I stand by the recommendation of the committee. Is it 100% the membership that I wanted to appoint? No, it's not. And it wasn't in the first 2 motions that I made. Those 3 members aren't all 3 on this list. But the fact is that this is the membership that the committee came up to, the majority approved, and we should approve the recommendation that was made by your ad hoc committee that you appointed to conduct the interviews.
Okay.
And I will not support the motion
All right,
to amend
Commissioner
it.
Gilman.
I will support the motion. And I would caution those commissioners who think that Mr. Richardson's emailed comments to us are completely true. They are not. And a little more fact-checking might have been in order before he sent that information out, and so you could be informed appropriately. Dr. Liebsite is what she has said in the last meetings, and I think also it's important to note that he took the position on, in the middle, he finished a term, and at the very least, for continuity, it wouldn't be a bad idea to have given him a little bit more towards a reappointment anyway. So I'm going to have to support it, and I would encourage the other commissioners to do so.
Okay. I have a comment if anybody else doesn't have any more.
No, we all got more.
Okay. Then I will go to anyone that wants to raise their hand. Commissioner Fleece.
I would support Commissioner Wheelock's statement completely. Why did we appoint an ad hoc committee if it wasn't to wait for the recommendation? And in the past, I don't recall any exceptions to the recommendations. And if we were going to do this routinely, we might as well abolish the ad hocs and just do it in our committees.
Okay. Commissioner Henschel.
Thank you. I'd like to point out that the purpose of the ad hoc committee is to bring us a recommendation. If we wanted them to make the appointment, we would have made the ad hoc committee to just make the appointment. But I don't believe the purpose of that committee was for us to come and rubber stamp whatever they like. They're supposed to come back with a recommendation, and they did a good job of that. We had 3 ad hoc committees, we had, I don't know, a couple dozen appointments, and this is, out of all that, the only one that we have any question on. I think we did a great job, and I think the system has served its purpose. But at the same time, we should not just rubber stamp and overlook the facts that have been brought to light. Dr. Liebsite, looking at his application, I have right in front of me, Grand Traverse County Local Emergency Planning Committee, Grand Traverse County Local Planning Team, Traverse City Light and Power Board, several other, he's Executive Board of the Salvation Army. And this is a man of a lot of credentials, whether you think he's got the education of a 6th grader. How did he run the Light and Power Board and the Executive Board of the Salvation Army? I think it's kind of defamatory against his credentials that I'm reading on his application.
We'll go to Commissioner Maxbauer and then Commissioner Richardson.
Well, another thing that disturbed me about Mr. Robertson was I asked every single applicant if, and Commissioner Fleece, I know you're going to like this about him, I asked every single applicant what they thought about contracting. And he didn't equivocate at all. He said he was opposed, and he named the custodians as an example of his opposition. And I really do think that you can't shut the door on that for Parks and Rec if we're going to keep that pool open, which I certainly hope we do. And for the boards, Commissioner Henschel and I are in the planning stages of switching boards. Commissioner Henschel is going to go, once we can sit down and talk about a smooth transition, Commissioner Henschel, with the board's approval, of course, Commissioner Henschel will be going on to Parks and Rec, and I will be taking his place at Community Mental Health. Well, I won't be taking his place. I'll be sitting in his seat. There's a huge difference. And that's another reason I think we should go with Commissioner Henschel's recommendation.
Okay. And then I had Commissioner Richardson next.
We still haven't addressed all the, false statements you made 2 weeks ago, Commissioner Maxbauer. I had a conversation with Mr. Leapside after that meeting. I asked him about the claims that you had made, and he couldn't substantiate any of them. I honestly, at this point, I still don't know whether the claims came from you or came from him. But he pretty much led me to believe at that time that he was going to withdraw his name from consideration. I mean, we'd already done that anyway, but that he told me that he needed to call you and discuss it. Now, I don't know if he did that or not. I haven't talked to him since then. But the point is that, going back to Commissioner Henschel's comment about, well, everybody loved all the appointments except this one, so why shouldn't we argue? Well, maybe we didn't love all the appointments that were made, but maybe we accepted them because we did honor the work of the ad hocs, the various ad hocs and all the appointments we had to get through. But to continue to push this idea that this particular individual, I don't want to get into that. Because I just did not want to get into the discussion of that. The point is that the ad hoc interviewed 8 candidates. They were good candidates. We picked the 3 we felt would do the best job. It wasn't the easiest task, especially at Parks and Rec, but we did come up with it. And obviously, I'm not going to support this motion.
Okay. I just want to let you know that, I'm sorry, Commissioner Gilman.
Just one final question.
Yes.
Commissioner Richardson, did you, while you were talking to Dr. Leapside, did you happen to make a comment to him that scouting doesn't matter?
First of all, I didn't talk to Dr. Leapside. I talked to Harry Leapside. Secondly, no, I certainly didn't make a comment that scouting doesn't matter. I said that, and by the way, for the viewing public, the doctorate claimed by Mr. Leapside is some training he received through the Boy Scouts of America, which I'm sure is, it's very good training and all that, but does that equate to what it means to get a doctor of philosophy from a university where you're going to spend 3 or 4 years in study and write a dissertation and have that dissertation reviewed over a period of time by a group of, professors and so forth? And by the way, I was a Boy Scout, in case you were wondering, Jason. I'm surprised you didn't talk to your father about Mr. Leapside.
Okay.
He has pretty strong opinions about him.
All right. I guess I believe my final comments are going to be that, we've had a number of systems in place. Prior to some of the new commissioners, we had ad hoc. We had not ad hoc. We had a smaller group of county commissioners before we had the beautiful Sox and everything else, and we would bring those recommendations to the full board. We had actually 4 subcommittees, and then we had Ways and Means, and then we had a regular board meeting. And from time to time, it was when we brought it to the full board, the other commissioners that were not there at the committee always had questions about what went on at the committee and why what determined the recommendation. And what we found over time, that when we finally got to the Board of Commissioners meeting, we were rehashing the same discussion we had at the committee level. And that's why Dennis really strongly promoted the committee of the whole, because it would develop the same amount of information for everyone to hear, and hopefully that it would develop some sense of trust among the judgment of all the commissioners here when we do set up ad hoc committees. We would have a closer relationship because we're working together on all these decisions every Wednesday evening. And I understand that, some of us are new, some of us have been here for a long time, and we may have differences of opinion. And we've tried to work really close with the newer commissioners on your suggestions and comments and those kinds of things, and tried to do it in a congenial manner. Since we set up this committee of the whole, we were doing all the interviews with Legislation and Administration Committee. It was just a regular committee set up, and that's what their responsibility was. They made all the appointments. And so at the beginning of our election cycle, we said, what are we going to do as a commission about appointments? Do we want to interview them all? And the majority of us said, no, we don't want to sit here and interview every single candidate for appointments. Let's set up ad hoc committees, and that's what we've been doing, ad hoc committees for board rules, ad hoc committees for purchasing policy, which Commissioner Henschel chaired, ad hoc committees for interviews for committees, for appointments. And it was our hope that, we, as coming in with recommendations, are coming in with some degree of trust in terms of our recommendation to you. Quite frankly, I was part of a committee last year for the Airport Commission that I disagreed with the recommendation. I wanted to reappoint Dave Rapson again. I thought he was a valuable member. And there were certain commissioners on there that are no longer served, felt otherwise, that, we should be making changes wherever we can. So I got outvoted on that one, and it was kind of tough to walk up to that person and say, guess what, it didn't happen this time. And it's probably going to be the same situation for Harry. I've at least had a 12-month interaction with him on the Emergency Planning Board. I have all the respect for him as an individual and as a community service person. And I think my concern is I wasn't there doing the interviews. I can't make judgments on the other two individuals that you've made recommendations for, that, this motion's for. So I have no basis to do it because I wasn't there. And I'm basing it on the overall belief that I still want to entrust the decision of the committee and giving those people that took the time and energy to set up those meetings and go through all those interviews and discuss it and bring back what they think is the best. I guess the integrity of being a commissioner and trusting in their judgment, and I guess that would be my final feeling, other than I would convey personally to Harry that, should another opening occur and I would be on the committee, I would look favorably on another appointment, either on that board or another board. It would, this decision would hopefully not be seen as anything disrespectful to him. But I would encourage him to continue to be active with Grand Traverse County. But I still think that until this commission decides to do something different with appointments, I think we should honor the recommendation for coming in from the committee that held the interviews. All right, any other discussion? All right, the motion on the floor is to take the resolution on page 78 and remove the name Scott Robertson and add Harry Litz.
Dr. Harry Liebzeit.
Dr. Harry Liebzeit. Okay. So everyone understand the motion is to change the resolution. All right. Roll call vote, please.
Gilman,
Yes.
Henschel,
Yes.
Lemko,
Yes.
Richardson,
No.
Thomas,
No.
Max Bauer,
Yes.
Fleece,
No.
Wheelock,
No.
Inman.
No. Motion fails 5-4.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
I'd like to make a motion to table this.
Table what?
The motion.
Resolution?
Motion for appointments for Parks and Recreation.
I'll support. All right, the motion to table, technically by Robert's Rules of Order, is to address it later in the meeting. You have to
Next
make a
meeting.
motion to refer it. Actually, you need to make a motion to refer the recommendation to another committee.
That's my motion, is to defer it to next year's meeting.
That would be the first RMA meeting in January.
I'll support that.
All right, there's been a motion by Commissioner Lemkool, second by Commissioner Gilman, to take the approved resolution, or excuse me, the recommend, let me get this straight.
The ad hoc committee recommendation.
The ad hoc committee, a recommendation, that was changed, that failed, to send it back to the RMA, next RMA committee for further consideration. I will
My
not be...
motion is not the one for change. The motion is the one that's in our packet to table that.
Well, no motion's been made yet. You can't table something
I'm
that
sorry,
there's no motion
if I can
on.
clarify that. Your motion is to table the current resolution that we have in place in our packet. I'm sorry. Thank you.
I think he
Maybe
means
should wait for
defer.
a motion to be made before he moves to
All right,
defer
right.
it.
All right, you want-
the resolution.
You want to make a motion to take the resolution at hand in our packet and defer it to the next RMA meeting in January. All right, and is there a second?
And I seconded that.
Okay. Is there discussion? Commissioner Fleece, and then Commissioner Wheelock.
I see absolutely no reason to not vote on it tonight, and for Herb to want to put it off till next year, in my opinion, is absurd, for the reasons Commissioner Wheelock stated earlier, very clearly, and yourself, Mr. Chairman. I think we need to take the recommendation of the ad hoc committee and vote on it tonight.
Commissioner Henschel.
Commissioner Fleece, you seem to put a lot of stock in the doubt cast by Ross on Christine's statements. This motion would give you an opportunity to verify one way or the other whether Dr. Leapsight or Harry Leapsight, whichever you prefer to call him.
He by no stretch of the imagination.
Hey, Commissioner Fleece,
Is a doctor.
can you calm down for a second? Commissioner Henschel has the floor. Thank you.
I'm just offering that this motion would give you an opportunity to research, because right now, it's kind of a game of he said, she said, and, maybe there's some documentation that could prove one way or the other for you. That's all.
All right. Let's do with Commissioner Wheelock and then Commissioner Richardson.
Okay, guess I have two pieces. First, I guess I'd ask Mr. Cooney whether this would be the appropriate way to handle this question.
Well, I
As
think
far-
what it turned into was a motion to refer to RMA, which is fine, rather than lay on the table. So I think that would be appropriate to do that.
All right.
That's what
It's an appropriate motion, but not necessarily.
The second piece
Yeah.
is I still support the qualifications and the decisions of the committee and the people that were interviewed to sit on this board.
Okay.
And I won't support deferring it. I support moving forward with the appointments.
Commissioner Richardson.
And I would certainly second both of those, and I would also say, how much more time are we going to waste on this? I mean, it's a volunteer Parks and Rec appointment, for crying out loud.
Are we ready to vote on this? Okay, the motion is to take the resolution on page 78, that is the recommendation by the ad hoc committee for the appointment of Scott Robertson and David Grahams to the Parks and Rec Commission for 3 years. That motion is to defer it to the next RMA meeting in January. Everybody understand the motion? All right, roll call vote, please.
Commissioner Henschel,
Yes.
Lemkool,
Yes.
Richardson,
No.
Thomas,
No.
Max Bauer,
Yes.
Fleece,
No.
Wheelock,
No.
Gilman,
Yes.
Inman.
No. Motion still fails 5-4.
Mr. Chairman?
Can we get a motion to pass the resolution, please? Commissioner, please.
I would move that we approve the resolution from the ad hoc committee on the appointments stated in the resolution.
All right. Motion by Commissioner Fleece, seconded by Commissioner Richardson to to approve the recommendation of Scott Robertson and David Grams to the Parks and Rec Commission for a 3-year term, January 1, 2012 through December 31st, 2014. So we have a motion with a second on the floor. Discussion? Thank you. A roll call vote.
Commissioner Lemko?
No.
Richardson?
Yes.
Thomas?
Yep.
Max Bauer?
No.
Fleece?
Yes.
Wheelock?
Yes.
Gilman?
No.
Henschel?
No.
Inman?
Yes. Passes 5-4? Okay. All right. Wow. Item number 26, RAP Risk Avoidance Program Grant, District Court. Commissioner Fleece, you pull that. You have the floor.
I would oppose this resolution based on the expenditure of $20,000 of taxpayer funds from Grand Traverse County when we've just laid off in a couple of days 11 employees, and so I'll be voting no regarding this resolution.
I'll support that.
Okay, moved by Commissioner Fleece, seconded by Commissioner Gilman, not to approve item number 26, and that would be the RAP Risk Avoidance Program Grant for District Court on page 80. And of course, this is to improve security improvements at the Hall of Justice and matching funds being provided out of the insurance fund. Is there discussion on the motion? Commissioner Richardson.
Commissioner Fleece, as much as I agree with your reason for not voting for this, I'm not sure they're really related, and I guess we could vote against every spending plan we have based on those kind of reasons. So I certainly appreciate your sentiments, but I'm going to have to vote no on your resolution.
Okay. Commissioner Lemko.
Point of order. I guess I'd like to ask our legal representative on this. If it's because it's a negative motion, if it goes down, then we have to make another motion again? Wouldn't we be better off to make a positive motion and then vote it down or
It
vote
could go
against
either. It could go either way.
Either way.
Can you do it either way?
You can go to either way.
All right.
Right now, we have a motion not to accept the resolution as presented. Commissioner Gilman.
I'd just like to make the point that I'm looking at the $20,000 cash match. I'll tell you, for $20,000, you can get a lot of security. I mean, you can get a lot of security equipment. And with all due respect to some of the decision-making, I had a chance to look at some of the equipment at the Traverse Area District Library. I had offered some of my expertise on that particular system, and nobody called me before the purchase was made. I come at no cost, and it's what I do for a living. And my initial assessment of the system that was put in place, for the cost that was put in place, I think we could have done better. And I think that a lot of times we in government tend to overlook some of the other possibilities that we have, and obviously we can't spend all our time looking at different types of equipment and comparing ad nauseum, but sometimes when you have the resources available to you, use them. And I consider myself to be one of those resources. I am an expert in this field, just as we have a number of experts on this board in a number of fields. So I would say that we should go forward with this motion to.
Commissioner Wheelock.
Well, I'm not sure that I'm completely happy about the equipment that was outlined before us last week, but that being said, this is an acceptance of a grant of $20,000 from MMRMA to fulfill a goal that we set, and we charged District Court and DK Securities to identify unmet security issues within the District Court building. Now, we still, if we approve the acceptance of this grant, yes, we pledged $20,000 of matching grant money, but we still have the sole discretion of what is bought, when it is bought, and how much we pay for it. So the idea that if we accept this grant, we're automatically going to go out and buy the equipment that was outlined the other night, that's not true. The fact is, it says right here that the county's purchasing policy and procedures will be followed. And, you know, I think here's an opportunity where, sure, we can buy a lot of security equipment for $20,000. But when MMRMA gives us another $20,000, now we have $40,000 available to make sure that we do it right. So, you know, I won't support the motion not to accept the grant, but I will be looking very, very closely at the equipment that's outlined for purchase and how it's going to be installed and what benefits we're going to gain in security in the courthouse.
Okay. Commissioner Max Bauer and then Commissioner Flees.
Well, I'm actually going to support this motion, Commissioner Fleece, and you and I happen to agree on security in courthouses. I think the security that we have, the security firm over there, is, I can't tell you what a waste of money I think that is. We have armed bailiffs in every courtroom. And Commissioner Fleece did take me over to the parking lot and basically walked me across the street over by Park Place and said, now, if you want to hurt somebody, you could do it right here, couldn't you? Because you got to go through that door. I happen to agree with him on that. My other question, MMRMA, what are they doing giving out grants?
Well, they're
Insurance.
It's part of
The
their risk
liability.
avoidance program, and if they can mitigate liability exposure, that's why they give out grants for risk avoidance.
right. They're in the liability business. They want to lower it.
I understand. Well, you know, I guess my point was, I would think they would kind of lower premiums rather
That might
than...
end up happening if this happens. You never know.
Well, all right.
Any other questions? Commissioner Fleece, did you have something? Yes.
Well, I just wanted to answer Commissioner Richardson's comment a little bit. It's not in its totality, the $20,000 when we're laying off employees. I opposed, and as long as I sit on this board, I'll oppose security for the courthouse. We spend almost $250,000 a year on unarmed guards at the entrances. We search people, like Commissioner Max Bauer stated. We got armed bailiffs in the courtrooms. You know, I spent 29 years out there roaming the streets, and sometimes it wasn't very friendly. But I certainly didn't expect the city or an insurance company or anybody else to give me an armed guard so I could get in my car safely. Nor did I pay Michigan Bell to delete my phone number from the book. It's part of the job. The judges, the court employees, in my opinion, if they feel that threatened, they ought to find a different line of work. But the point I was making tonight by not wanting to support this resolution is $20,000 with another $20,000 grant. So now we got 40, add that to almost $250,000, you're up to $300,000 for next year. And what do we get out of it? It's like having a toothless watchdog at the front door. All he can do is gum you. And you know the sad part about it is, look at the statistics. An armed individual walks in bent on mayhem. The first person they take out, and it was the auto parking system people that really worried me, is they take out the uniform, the identifiable force that can stop them. They shoot them. I mean, right between the lookers a lot of times. And there they lay dead just because they went to work, they needed the job, and they had to put the monkey suit on that identified them as a potential threat to the person that wanted to do harm. We have a lot of people in this community that may talk a tough story, but look at the actual statistics and facts about what we've had happen in the courthouse. You know, none. It's, I just am not willing to spend taxpayer dollars or authorize the expenditure of taxpayer dollars, including my own, on that type of stuff. If the people are that threatened, they need to find a different job, in my humble opinion.
All right, any other comments on the motion? Commissioner Henschel.
Thank you. At our family business, we recently upgraded our security system, and I did consult the expertise of Commissioner Gilman, and he gave me some great advice. And for less than an eighth of the amount of money we're talking about here, I got 40 color cameras with night vision and 10 terabytes of recording. That's like 40 cameras for 90 days at a time recording. For less than an eighth of the amount of money they're talking about here, I think this is kind of irresponsible that they didn't consult Commissioner Gilman. He sent me down the right road, and I just the other day had a sheriff's deputy who was investigating an abandoned car, had him in my office reviewing the recordings, which are instantly clickable on my computer, and he's just raving about what great quality that is compared to everything he sees at other places of business. For less than half of the match portion of this, we could probably get better equipment. So I guess I have to support this motion based on the responsibility factor.
I guess I'll make a remark on this, and that is I'll not support the recommendation of the motion. Given the reasons of Commissioner Wheelock, I'd like to have them accept an award up to $20,000 and encourage Commissioner Gilman to meet with Carol Stocking, if that is possible, and keeping in mind what Commissioner Henschel's system is and what they have down there, and make suggestions about how they might be able to improve that situation if indeed you have the expertise of that equipment and how that might be able to help them. And then, it might come back, we have to spend less than $20,000 in terms of a match, depending on, the interaction of Commissioner Gilman and staff. Who knows what could occur, but I would still encourage Commissioner Gilman to make contact with Carol, the administrator down there, and see what else can be done. But as Commissioner Wheelock just said, we're just authorizing the $20,000 grant, and from there they have to come back and they have to justify exactly what they're going to be doing with it and the actual cost. So I'd like to have them do that, and I would encourage Commissioner Gilman to, if he could be a part of that, to make that second invitation. So, anybody else have anything? All right, so the motion on the floor is not to approve the resolution as presented on page 80. Not to approve the resolution on page 80. Roll call vote, please.
So, clarification?
Yes.
A yes vote votes for the no vote.
Yeah, you're basically eliminating.
Yes vote
Votes
denies
us
the
down.
grant.
Yeah, a yes vote is but you're not giving it does not pass.
That's what the confusion.
Yeah, it's always easier to do the flip motion, but, okay. So, does everybody understand the motion? The motion is not to move forward with the resolution at present. Okay, roll call vote, please.
Richardson?
No.
Thomas?
Yes.
Max Bauer?
Yes.
Fleece?
Yes.
Wheelock?
No.
Gilman?
Yes.
Henschel?
Yes.
Lemko?
No.
Inman?
No.
Pass.
Don't accept the grant. Pass 5-4?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Moving on to,
What was the vote, Mr. Chairman?
You wanted to.
5 yes, 4 no.
you want to read?
To not accept the grant.
To not accept.
Oh,
Okay, all right, so we need a motion to accept the grant, if we could, please.
No, we just.
No,
we just
we
voted it
just
down.
Voted it down, so we're not going to accept
We're
it.
done.
Motion 5-4?
Yes,
I flipped it
not to
around.
approve it.
Conservatives have it.
All right. Okay,
We didn't approve
motion
the
is denied, or approved, and the resolution is denied. Okay,
And I'd like to thank my fellow commissioners that voted yes.
all right. Okay. Item number 27, Commissioner Fleece.
Well, I again don't want to approve this because of the budgetary constraints on the county. And I don't think we should hire somebody to go to Roy's General Store and spy on them and make sure they're not selling cigarettes to minors when on the other side of their lot, away from the gas pumps, they're dealing drugs. But never mind that, we're after the cigarettes. So I won't support this resolution either.
All right.
Mr.
So
Chairman?
do we have a motion on the floor?
I'll make a motion if I could.
I'll support.
All right, what is the,
My
repeat
motion is to approve and authorize the chair to sign amendment number 1 to the CPBC agreement, increasing the total amount by $37,467 as identified above.
Okay, moved by Richardson, seconded by Lemkool, to approve the resolution as presented. Discussion. Commissioner Gillen.
I made the point last time, and I'll make it again. We're going to still wind up having some county dollars involved in this, though much of this is a grant. We will still have some liability and some cost to the county. And to do what? To intimidate and harass retailers in our community. That's what this is about. Now, you commissioners who want to vote for this, just understand that what you are voting for is to intimidate and harass retailers in this community. And, who knows, they have to have some kid working behind the register at some point who accidentally sells to somebody who's underage, and wham bam, it's a sting. Last thing I'd like to do is to spend county dollars on more, frankly, let's give the Record Eagle its soundbite for the night, cigarette Nazis. Because that's essentially what this is about. So I'm not at all interested in supporting this.
All right, Commissioner Henschel, and then Thomas.
Thanks. Certainly as a retailer that does sell tobacco, my family's company does, certainly we do not want to sell to minors, and we are pretty crazy about our training and teaching people to card and when to card and get valid ID. And even the little nuances of a valid ID has to be a current driver's license. It can't be an expired driver's license. We certainly we work with Blarney Castle Stations is one of our suppliers for gasoline, and we know they work very hard on this. I think I have to agree. It's an intimidation tactic. There's not a lot of money in retail, and the people that are working the floor, they don't make a lot. They're low-income people, and we have people that are working 2 and 3 jobs to make ends meet, because that's the kind of job they can get. And to come in and try to fool them, try to dupe them into selling cigarettes to someone that's a minor, it's mean to me. I guess other than that, the biggest objection I have to this resolution that we're discussing is that we have money budgeted in our health department for family planning services. And this resolution is to take $2,467 out of family planning services and hire a cop on the beat to go out and try to trick people into selling cigarettes to minors. Now, to me, when we approve a budget line item that says family planning services, I think of indigent people that are of low income and don't have anywhere else to turn that might need a contraceptive or birth control pills. That sounds like family planning services to me. It doesn't sound like setting up cigarette stings.
This grant is an increase to that family planning services grant and an increase to the tobacco enforcement grant. They're 2 separate items, but they came in the same community planning.
So we have 2 grants?
No, it's 1 grant, but it brings funding for family planning services, an increase of $2,467, and a Food and Drug Administration increase of $35,000. And we can talk about intimidation, or however you want to call it, but the fact is, it's still the law. And what it is, it's a community planning grant to enforce the law.
Commissioner Thomas and then Commissioner Richardson.
Well, the other day I would have liked to seen this in two resolutions, because I think they're enough different that they should be in 2 different resolutions. But I've since changed my mind I don't know why we have to spend any more money on family planning. So I've changed my mind, because I voted for it the other day. But I would have liked to seen it in 2 resolutions.
It was one grant with funding for two
Well, I know.
programs.
But you didn't have a chance to vote for one or the other.
And
But I
again,
have
this-
changed my mind on it, so.
Okay, this is, next, Commissioner Richardson.
When I was a kid, it wasn't hard to buy cigarettes if you were 13 or 14 years old. Nobody, I think the law was the same then, but nobody enforced it. It was no big deal.
When you were a kid, you had to roll your own.
No, I'm not that old. I haven't got to your point yet, Dick. I mean, anything we can do that helps cut down on the use of tobacco by children, I think is a good idea. And, gee, if we don't want to enforce this law, maybe we should stop enforcing, the drinking age as well. I mean, there's no end to the kinds of laws we could get rid of, and, everybody could make more money, I guess. But I will support this.
Oh, Commissioner Gilman.
This is just timely enough. I passed a little quote from C.S. Lewis out just prior to the meeting. Every commissioner has one on their desk, and I'd like to read it right now. Of all tyrannies, a tyranny sincerely exercised for the good of its victims may be the most oppressive. It would be better to live under robber barons than under omnipotent moral busybodies. The robber baron's cruelty may sometimes sleep. His cupidity may at some point be satiated. But those who torment us for our own good will torment us without end, for they do so with the approval of their own conscience.
Okay, I have a remark. Or, no, I'm sorry, Commissioner Flees. I do last. Commissioner Flees.
Commissioner Wheelock, I happen to have some knowledge that you had some inspectors out to your place of business in the not-too-distant past called Myosha. And I think if this grant, we were having additional Myosha come over there and stand in your business and watch, I don't think you'd vote for this whatsoever. And the only difference is you're selling steel, Roy's is selling cigarettes, as is a lot of other merchants, and what you're doing is legitimate. What they try to do is legitimate. So I'm surprised by your willingness to vote for this resolution.
And when the Myosha people said I was in violation of the law, I paid the fines and made the changes.
Okay. Well, I'll tell you, you have another comment? Okay, Commissioner Henschel.
You say with enthusiasm.
That's why they nominated me as chairman this year. Keep me quiet.
I believe in enforcing the laws we have. I recently made a comment at an East Bay Town Board meeting that we need to enforce the regulations we have instead of making new ones. And I completely agree with that. Our county health officer told us at the committee meeting where this was presented that, I don't remember the statistic, it was more than half. It was most of smokers start smoking before their age of 18.
Mm-hmm.
Well, we do enforce this law, but that doesn't seem to stop people from smoking. Most people smoking today started before they were 18. Where did they get the cigarettes if you can't buy them at stores? And I'm telling you, they're not buying them at our store, and they're not buying them around town because the word would get out, and the outside of this grant, police would go set up a sting if there was a complaint. So, and certainly, I believe there's a lot better ways to spend taxpayer dollars to reduce smoking. A simple regulation that doesn't cost so much would be just to get the tobacco manufacturers off our back as far as what we are required to display in the store. We don't want to have the waterfall display behind our employees that shows all a bunch of cigarettes. We don't want that, but we are forced to do that by tobacco retailers, or I'm sorry, tobacco producers, cigarette producers. And it's either that or get out of the market, but you can't sell gas without that because there's no money in gas. You make 6 cents a gallon on gas and you're paying 7 to the credit card companies. So it's between the pops and you know, the other things people grab that are convenience items that allow us to provide the jobs in our community that we're able to provide. I think this is irresponsible use of tax dollars.
Okay, I guess I have a remark. You know, certainly I'd prefer our officers to concentrate on other areas of law enforcement. However, I'm going to take this, I guess, from a personal issue, is that, as you know, I've lost all my family members in the last 4 years, and 2 of them due to cigarette smoking. And they started at, I believe, age 16 or 15, and never stopped. And they're not alive today because of their habits that started at a very young age. And since we don't have community liaison officers at the school system to help kids understand the dangers of smoking, and to try to be a mentor in our school system, I guess I would do anything to stop one child from smoking cigarettes at 14, 15, or 16 and save one life for the cost of these grants. So I'll be voting yes on it. Any other comments or questions? All right, the motion on the floor is to approve the resolution as presented. So a yes means you agree. All right. A roll call vote, please.
Commissioner Thomas?
No.
Wheelock?
Yes.
Fleece?
No.
Gilman?
No.
Henschel?
No.
Lemko?
Yes.
Max Bauer?
Yes.
Richardson?
Yes.
Inman?
Yes, motion passes with 3 noes.
4 noes.
4 noes.
4 noes.
4 no.
Okay. Wait for a second. That concludes the items that were pulled off the consent calendar. And we will move on to unfinished business, which we have none. We have no new business. We have second public comment. Does any member of the public wish to speak to the Board of Commissioners at this time? And if you do, state your name, address, and keep it within 3 minutes. Hearing none, we will close public comment. If I could just make one quick announcement. There is a correction in the county administrator's evaluation that was presented to you at Ways and Means. We apologize for that fact. I had one commissioner notify me today that that particular person did not submit an evaluation, so I had our administrative manager relook at the applications, and there was an error. There were 2 of them counted. The same one was counted twice, unfortunately. So I thank that commissioner for their notification of me. And Linda Nelson, the new office manager, did prepare a new evaluation overview on Dennis for 2011, with 8 out of 9 county commissioners performing to the evaluation forms. The ranking did not change. The performance evaluation ranking remained an 8, as consistent with 2010. So I will pass that out for your information. And with that, does any other commissioners have any notices or announcements? Commissioner Lemko.
Yeah, for the calendar, the DHS Pavilions Board meeting is on the 27th of January. It's not on your calendar.
Okay.
And my question is also on the Camp Pugsley. Is that something that we want commissioners to show up to? Is that a special meeting, or I remember going down there before.
That's one that I'm assigned to.
You're assigned to that?
Yeah,
Okay.
we have a liaison to that.
Okay, at one time, we used to take the commissioners and go down there, and I just didn't know if that's what it was.
Yeah, it was set up so all the elected officials in that area and the first responders, fire, police,
The citizens?
et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah, plus they have citizens at large on that
Yes,
committee.
and citizens at large.
Okay.
So they would have a better understanding as to, what would occur if there was an emergency at that correctional facility and how everything would fall into place. Okay. Any other questions on the calendar or on the notices and announcements?
I believe we're officially done for this year, and I'll see all of you bright and early Tuesday
I have one
morning.
comment.
Okay, go ahead, Commissioner Flees.
I'd like to leave the commissioners with something to think about. The legislative branches of all levels of government, and one of the commissioners said a similar thing a little earlier tonight, but if for every resolution or law we pass, we had to take 2 off the books, soon our laws would be easy to understand and they'd be well thought out. And you stop and think about that. And I'll use bullying, for example. That is the most absurd law I think I've ever heard, because we had many adequate laws already on the books that could have been enforced, that weren't enforced, so now they come out with a new one, because it's the in thing to do, called bullying. But for every new law passed at all levels, the federal on down, you pass a new law, you take 2 off the books, and I think about that.
Somebody was talking about that back when FDR was president.
And you remember that so vividly.
Mr. Chairman, I believe a motion to adjourn is in order.
We have no closed session, so we have a motion by Commissioner Flees, seconded by...
No, Sonny.
Motion by Commissioner Wheelock, seconded by Commissioner Richardson.
I want to table the motion.
Defer.
To adjourn
To another meeting.
To adjourn the meeting. All in favor? Aye. Opposed?
And for our viewing audience, you might want to look at January 3rd meeting,
Organizational meeting.
organizational meeting. Commissioner Richardson is going to be the recipient of a present.
We stand adjourned. Thank you, everyone, for showing up.
Happy New Year's, everybody.
Full of recyclables.
Yeah, right.
Oh, geez.